Hello, everyone. For those who are joining us, welcome back to A Helping Voice. Apologies, since last week, I had my first stream 2 weeks ago, and then, of course, I had to skip the next two sessions. But we're back on schedule now, and I think from here on out, the idea is to do these kind of readings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Although, could it change in the future? Maybe. But for now, it's going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, since I am New York based. But yeah, let's just dive into it. So this week's reading is going to be, how long it's going to be, we'll see. But it's I found this book at a flea market in Bridgeport, Connecticut a few weeks ago. There was this vendor there that actually had a book vendor that really only sold books, but a lot of educational books, history books, photo books, and he had a whole section of dime novels, like the cheap pulp fiction, like trashy novels that you could get for like literally a dime back in the day, that were and a lot of like large, some famous writers made their start in writing pulp fiction novels. Now, granted, also some notorious people also got their start. Really, I'm mainly thinking of L. Ron Hubbard. Started, I think it was pulp fiction novels he started that as. Maybe he might have started though as it might have been science fiction magazines though too. I get it mixed up. Either way, I should mention too, we got I think we upgraded the camera pretty well today, since last time it was a rinky-dinky webcam, and now we're shooting on a device that is significantly more expensive. So, it's looking good. I need to turn the autofocus off, I'm realizing now. But otherwise, yeah, this looks good. Anyways, the book tonight, it's an interesting one, because I feel like this could go really well, or it could go horribly wrong, and I have to end it really quickly. But tonight's book is the, I don't even really know what the actual title is, but it's the Gilded Snatch Caper, I'm assuming number 3, Dark Angel by James D. Lawrence. Let's see if that was right. Yes. Yeah, it's really or it's Dark Angel 3, the Gilded Snatch Caper. I don't know. It's probably Dark, because now I'm realizing my title's probably off, but whatever. But like I said, I found this at a flea market. How much would I pay for it? $5 whole, which seems about right. Although, yeah, it's in pretty good condition for being from the 70s. And if you couldn't tell, this is kind of a more themed Pulp Fiction novel too, as in it's... Well, let's read the back. Well, the front says, "She's rich, ravishing, and deadly. The newest sensation in detection adventure." I don't know why it's not a detective adventure, but whatever. "Escapade with $1 million death." And here we go. Sepia-skinned, Angela Harp was better known in New York police and the underworld as the Dark Angel. Angie's methods, however, were seldom angelic. The highest priced private eye in Manhattan, she owned the most lethal weapons a black chick ever packed, including her luscious, highly trained body. In her line of work, she frequently had to use them all. Again, not exactly PC. But, this was how it was back in the day. Angie had no business entering that Greenwich Village apartment. But when she saw what was inside, she made it her business. And soon she was a co-ed kidnap case, with Harlem hoods and mafia goons trying for a piece of the $2 million ransom, and a piece of the Dark Angel as well. So yeah, if you couldn't tell... Oh, and look, other Jetpack Dark Angel adventures, the Dream Girl Caper, and the Emerald Oil Caper. So yeah, I think it's I think the Dark Angel that's what the series is. But if you couldn't tell, yeah, this is a basically a blaxploitation dime novel. Which oh man, yeah, and this thing stinks like old books too. But this should be interesting. Let's read into it. I would say if it's interesting enough, we can come back to it and continue it in further sessions. Or if it's bad, I'll throw it on the street. I'm guessing this is like an excerpt. I don't know how these old books work. The Gilded Snatch Caper. Angie's skin crawled, and in the stillness she could hear her own blood pumping. The dingy apartment was vacant, except for a figure standing in the very center of the floor, a nude female store window dummy, its head cloven by a hatchet. Adding to the grotesque effect was a necklace hanging between the dummy's plastic breasts, and a word scrawled in big letters across its belly, "Help." If the necklace hadn't been the genuine article, worth 25 to 50 Gs, Angie might have just gotten out of there fast. Instead, she poked her pretty nose into the bloody case of a missing newspaper heiress and almost turned up missing herself. What that means sounds very exciting. Oh, yeah, 1975. What a real surprise. Again, this was the thing back in the day. I don't know. Anyways, let's start. Dark Angel number 3, The Gilded Snatch Caper by James D. Lawrence. Chapter 1. The down elevator was crowded. It was stopping at nearly every floor in the 40s, picking up noon lunchers. At 43, the passengers passed backwards to let a leggy, bare-thighed office cutie get on. See, it's going to be this kind of book. Come on. There you go. The squeeze was transmitted back through the car to a stunning, sepia-skinned soul sister with 2 big round dangly silver earrings and 2 big round shapely breasts thrusting out the front of her sleeveless B. Altman shirt shift. I don't know why that's important, but okay. She wouldn't have minded a bit of rub-up from some good-looking... What? She wouldn't have minded a bit of rub-up from some good-looking dude. Oh, no. It's this kind of book. After all, frottage was part of the price one paid for a figure like hers. Oh, Jesus. I'm already regretting this. I'm already regretting reading this. But the immediate pressure was coming from a smelly, perspiring fat woman just in front of her. Angela Harp eased another step to the rear. Anne felt a gun in her back. "The Dark Angel, I believe?" whispered a voice behind her. "Who wants to know?" Angie murmured over her shoulder. "No questions, Mama, and don't look around. When the elevator unloads, go straight out through the lobby and turn right." Wow, this book really starts fast. Angie didn't need to look around. Her well-honed survival instinct made it second nature to keep close visual tabs on the people around her. She already had a mental image of these gunmen. It had to be that dude who had gotten on the 48th floor with her when the car was nearly empty. She remembered now, after she left her Japanese masseurs, naturally, he had followed her down the corridor toward the elevators. In his left hand, he was carrying some kind of potted plant, wound in forest green wrapping paper, which was open at the top so that the fronds of the plant protruded. The way he was holding it, he could peer out between the fronds while keeping his own face covered. As the car filled, Plant Man had maneuvered his way around and behind her, until now he was conveniently entrenched in one corner of the elevator, holding a gun to her kidneys. Angela Harp's right hand reached back to curl gently and caressingly around the wrist of his gun hand. He was holding the piece in his coat pocket. She could feel his arm stiffen. "Don't try any smart karate moves," he hissed. "Wouldn't dream of it," Angie whispered back, without letting go. "My finger's on the trigger." Angie didn't doubt it, but she was gambling he wouldn't shoot. Not right there on the elevator, where he himself was penned up in the crowded car. If he was that kind of cold-blooded killer, he wouldn't have bothered hiding his face behind a potted plant. Besides which, he obviously wanted her alive for some reason. A corpse couldn't very well go out through the lobby and turn right. Angie's left hand gripped behind her, found his crotch... Oh, God. Angie's left hand gripped behind her, found his crotch, and unzipped his fly. "Hey," she could hear Plant Man's startled gasp in her ear. "What the hell are you doing?" By the way of answer, she pulled out his prick. It was gratifyingly large and easy to get a hold of. Oh, no. By way of answer, she pulled out his... Oh, I already read that. With his left hand encumbered by the potted plant and his right wrist pinned in her grasp, which had suddenly tightened in quite steely fashion, there wasn't a hell of a lot he could do. "Knock it off," he growled urgently. "I'll tear it off if you don't give me that gun," Angie murmured over her left shoulder. To emphasize her threat, Angie gouged her long, sharp fingernails into the flesh of his shaft. Plant Man stifled a yelp of pain. His breathing had become faster, more labored. 2 more passengers just squeezed aboard at the 40th floor. The door was closing. Since the bank of elevators only serviced the 40s, the car would express would express straight down from here. Next stop, the lobby. Give me the rod, Angie insisted, this time in slightly more than a whisper. Heads turned furtively in the car. Angie's nails dug harder into Plant Man's cock. The onlooker saw tears spring to his eyes. Give me the fucking rod. He hastily extricated the piece from his pocket and surrendered it as her right hand slid forward from his wrist. Angie brought the gun around in front of her, under her breasts. With her left arm, she nudged her shoulder bag forward to cover it. By now, the other passengers were staring in frank and avid curiosity, greedy for a little excitement to hype up their humdrum lives and to give them something sensational to gossip about, over their lunchtime martinis or bowls of chicken noodle. Don't be alarmed, folks, said the Black Fox. He's just a harmless flasher. Got his meat caught in his zipper. There was a stunned hush in the elevator, then several loud, embarrassed laughs and titters. Since the white guy behind her was obviously doing something urgent with his fly, she might just be telling the truth. The indicator light flashed L for lobby. The car came to a stop and the door slid open. The passenger surged forward eagerly, as if a bit more anxious than usual to get off. It was one thing to eyewitness a gripping interracial sex drama, and something else, again, to be trapped aboard with a freaked-out sex pervert. I'm going to read that again. It was one thing to eyewitness a gripping interracial sex drama, and something else again to be trapped aboard with a freaked-out sex pervert. Not to mention the off-color language of that spade chick, whose gorgeous good looks practically proclaimed her a Harlem hooker. Yeah. Angie stayed put with a fixed smile while the car was unloading, then stacked backward as soon as possible so that the gun was pointing at Plant Man under her left arm. Stay aboard, Buster, she warned him out of the corner of her mouth. A moment later, she darted toward the control panel and pressed the button to the 40th floor, even before the last couple of passengers were off. As they stepped out, the door was already closing. Hey, hold it. A man waiting to board let out a cry of protest and grabbed the door to stop it. Smiling, Angie smashed his fingers with the gun. He yelped in pain and hastily withdrew his hand. The door closed with a soft rubbery thud and the elevator shot upward. The Dark Angel waited a few moments, then pressed the emergency stop button. The car had shuddered to a halt. Alone at last, she remarked to Plant Man. Her voice was pleasant enough, but he eyed her with a distinctively apprehensive expression. Put down the goddamn plant so I can get a look at your face. He obeyed, setting the potted plant on the floor of the elevator. As he straightened up, Angie saw a long diagonal scar across his chin where he had once been cut, probably with a razor and obviously not while shaving. Whoever stitched him up had done a neat, workmanlike job, but the scar was still highly noticeable, which might explain his plant camouflage. On the other hand, Angie reflected, he could have worn a fake beard. Aside from the chin marker, he looked like average street muscle. Tough, physically hard, not overly bright. He was light-haired with vaguely Slavic features. She knows that, I don't know. About 28 or 29. For some reason, which Angie couldn't finger, his blue and white plaid sport coat didn't go quite with the rest of his getup. What's your name? Lesko. Mike Lesko. You a mob soldier? No way, baby, just freelance. Who sent you? She asked. I don't know. Honest, Mama, that's the straight fucking truth. Angie let him worry a while. Having the drop on you like I do right now, I could work you over pretty painfully, Buster, and this time not just your prick. She let her words sink in, like stones dropping into ice water. Lesko didn't give her any argument. I know, I've heard plenty about you, he mumbled sheepishly. A rumor seemed to be getting around that the Dark Angel played rough, clearly. You want to tell it your way, she invited. Sure, damn right, Lesko agreed eagerly. Why not? I'm listening. Well, last night I picked up this broad in a bar, on 24th Street, or she picked me up. Which was it, said Angie. I guess maybe she picked me up when you come right down to it. A prostitute? Nah, strictly amateur. No tramp, though. A little hippie-ish, maybe. Did she have a name? Flower, that's all I know. What was she like? Oh, blonde, long hair, maybe 20, 21. The kind that goes round in blue jeans. You know, not too clean. Nice ass, not much on tits. I get the picture, said Angie. Keep talking. Well, anyhow, I got her back to my place and was bald. Where's your place? Lesko gave a rooming address on Delancey Street. So what happened? After we finished screwing, about midnight or 1 o'clock, whichever it was, Flower offers me this proposition. How would I like to make $50 real easy? just for putting a gun on some black chick. And you didn't want to, said Angie acidly, but she talked you into it. For the first time, Lisco grinned. When I heard that the black chick was the Dark Angel, I held out for 100 and got it. She paid you off right then and there? Nah, not right away. She had to go get the money first. She was gone for about an hour, and that's when she came back and gave me $50. She said that was the down payment, and also brought the plant that I was carrying. Why? Said Angie. She said to hold it up to, in front of me so you couldn't see my face and notice my scar, remember what I look like. Besides, she said it would make me look like I was a delivery man, so you probably wouldn't even notice me at all or pay any attention. The stupid cunt. Okay. Again, Mr. Lesko's words and not mine. That was the last time you saw of her? Nope, she stayed with me all night. Then this morning, we got some breakfast and she rode uptown with me on the subway. We got here about 10:30 and hung around outside the building entrance till we saw you go in. Angie said, what about your other $50? She promised me I'd get that when I delivered you. Where were you supposed to take me? Around the corner to 47th Street. That's why I told you to go out of the lobby and turn right. Flower said there'd be a car waiting there, a black checker sedan with a guy at the wheel. She said she'd be in the back seat. She said to make you get in the back and sit between us. From there, they drive down to Chinatown. She said they'd pay me and drop me off to Lancet Street on the way. Angie was watching Lesko closely while he talked, wondering how much crap of what he told her was true and how much was crap. She tapped the gun in her hand. Your piece or hers? Hers, said Lesko. I carry a rod of my own, but at the last minute, after we saw you go in, she pulled this one out of the purse and made me switch. How come? She said the serial number had been filed off this one, so it couldn't be traced if anything went wrong. Angie glanced thoughtfully at the gun, a Savage 32 automatic, then went back at Lesko. Okay, honky, up against the wall. It's been a while since I've read the word honky in anything. Lesko looked startled, as if he'd been assuming that they're already over any rough spots. Move, mother, snapped the Dark Angel. Mob soldier or not, Lesko had obviously been braced by the law in his time. He turned and assumed the stance familiarly. He turned and assumed the stance familiarly, leaning forward on his toes, arms outspread against the wall in the elevator car. Angela Harp frisked him with practical ease, developed during her post-Radcliffe, post-fashion model come call girl hitch as a woman cop on the NYPD. Damn, this lady knows her stuff. Topside, he was clean and empty-pocketed, except for an envelope inside his sports coat. Below the belt, he was likewise totally devoid of baggage. Angie frowned. It was one of those trivial but out-of-the-ordinary details that automatically raised her antenna. You don't even carry a wallet? She asked Lesko. Flower made me clean out my pockets before we left my place, just in case. In case what? Hell, I don't know. In case anything went wrong. I suppose if I had no idea and I felt like keeping my mouth shut, there'd be no way to prove who I was. Convenient for her, Angie said tartly, if they fish you out of the New York harbor tomorrow morning. She reached around and extracted the envelope from his inside coat pocket. It was the plain white kind one can buy in any 10-cent store. There was no postage stamp on it, but the flap was sealed shut. In the upper left corner was an address on Charleston Street, NYC 10014, apartment 22. In the center, printed in block letters, was the name Bryony, or Bryony. Bryony? What is his name? Okay, focus. Bryony. Let's say it's that, Bryony. Presumably the person for whom the envelope is intended. If she told you to clean out your pockets, what are you doing with this? Angie held the envelope over her shoulder so he could glance at it. Don't ask me, said Lesko. It's not mine. Then what the hell is it doing in your pocket? This isn't my coat either. Angie paused in exasperation. Would you like to back up and run that past me again? I forgot to tell you. When Flower came to my place last night with the $50 in the plant, she also brought this coat. She wanted me to wear it when I came here. Angie said, and if I ask why, you'll play dumb again. Well, shit, I don't know. What do you want me to say? I can guess, if you prefer that. Well, go ahead and guess. Well, Flower ain't pulling this job alone. She's obviously working with someone else, maybe more than one person. Brilliant. So what? So maybe she wanted some way to identify me to one of her buddies. Some dude who hadn't laid eyes on me yet. You dig what I mean? This blue and white checkered coat would be easy to spot. Angie said skeptically, With that fucking plant in front of your face, they need some other way to spot you? Okay, you asked me to guess, so I'm guessing. Maybe it was a case of someone seeing me from behind after I came outside with you. Angie considered for a moment and still wasn't convinced. Did you know this envelope was in the coat? Yeah, I noticed it. It didn't arouse your curiosity? Shit, no. It wasn't mine. I was just wearing someone else's coat to pull the job. Why the hell should I care what was left in the pockets? Angie could feel something small and hard and flat inside the envelope. She wanted to take a look, if she could figure out a way to rip open the flap without letting go of the gun. As her glance dropped momentarily from Lesko to the envelope, she noticed something even lower down. There were marks on the green wrapping paper around the potted plant. An address was scrawled on the paper in black grease pencil. Charlton Street. And damned if it didn't look like the same number. Angela Hart bent slightly for a closer look, and a second later felt like the world's stupidest bitch. Lesko must have sensed that her attention was distracted, or more likely sneaked a peek over his shoulder. He came off the wall with like a coiled spring, one rock-hard fist swung around, catching Angie in the temple, knocking her over backward like a bowling pin. The gun flew from her hand and she landed on her ass. Lesko was already whirling, ready to come down on her like a ton of bricks. There was no time to slide her trusty bag off her shoulder for a knockout swing. Angie spike-heeled him in the balls and straightened backwards with a sick-faced grunt of pain. She rolled faster to her left. The quickest weapon in reach was the potted plant. She grabbed it right-handed and slung it viciously in a roundhouse sweep, like a ball and chain. The paper and fronds tore off in her hand, but the heavy pot smashed into Lesko's face, toppling him like a dynamited smokestack. Something tinkled to the floor of the elevator, but Angie was too busy to see what. She was on her feet by the time Lesko hit the deck, ready to finish him off with a boot in the teeth if he showed any further fight. But he laid still, obviously out for the count. Panting, Angie looked around, wondering about the sound she had heard a second earlier. There must have been something small and metallic in the potted plant, something that had fallen out when the paper tore. There it was. She could see it now, shining up at her from the dark floor of the elevator. A key. Okay. So no, this is certainly interesting. I mean, it's boy oh boy is it outdated though. You know, in terms of I don't know, sexism, slight racism, all the fun ones. But you know, like so far, it's not. I don't think it's anything too terrible. Well, I mean, relatively speaking. Anyways, let's continue. Chapter 2. It was a key for an ordinary EL-type door lock. Angela Harp retrieved the Savage automatic before picking it up. The key had a number stamped on it, on one side, 22. Just to make sure, Angie examined the Charlton Street address scrawled on the wrapping paper torn from the potted plant. As expected, it was the same as the envelope's return address. Angie picked up the envelope and ripped open the flap. There was another key inside, a duplicate of the one she had just picked up from the floor, and bearing the same number, 22. Mike Lesko was stirring. Angie stuck the keys and the envelope in her shoulder bag, but kept the automatic handy. She stepped over the fallen Gunzel, straddling him with her legs, in position to stomp his nose, or eye, or family jewels as circumstances might recommend, should he prove prepuris. Well, Lesko opened his eyes and found himself looking up the skirt of her. Oh no. Lesko opened his eyes and he found himself looking up the skirt of her mini-shift, which wasn't a very long view. His gaze came into focus on the crotch of her pink panties. Angie let him look for a while before he noticed her watching him. You like? She asked. Lesko grinned and nodded. You're some dish mama. In that case, take a good look. Angie lifted her dress up around her waist. What? Oh my god. Lesko could see her navel and the dark hairs curling out around the crotch of her bikini. He reddened and gulped. How would you like a piece of that? Angie asked. You mean it? Maybe. Depends on you. What kind of a lay was flour? Not bad. Honey, if you ever go to bed with me, you're in for the ride of your life. I guarantee you'll be ashes hauled. What? I guarantee you'll get your ashes hauled like they never been hauled before. Who says that? Lesko moistened his lips. What do I have to do? Start spending more time with that bar on 24th Street where you met Flower. In fact, keep your eyes peeled all through the neighborhood. If you spot her, latch on and find out where she lives, or at least where I can reach her. Then call me and get yourself in shape for the screw of the century. She pulled a card from her shoulder bag and let it flutter down on his chest. There's my number. You got a deal, Angel, Lesko added hopefully. She's probably waiting in that car around the corner right now. Angie stepped up back so he could get up. I doubt it, but we'll check. They probably had someone stationed in the lobby or in one of the floors below 48, keeping watch on the elevator. There could have been someone right in the same car with us, but by now they've probably know something's gone wrong. At the control panel, she pressed the button for 40 again. The stop circuit released and the car resumed its upward run. On the 40th floor, they got out, walked down one flight, and took a 30s elevator to the lobby. Angie slipped the Savage into her shoulder bag before they got off. Keep your right hand in your pocket, she told Lesko, and walk a little bit behind me on my left, as if you were keeping me covered. There's no sign of any opposition spook watching the elevators. The noise and color-blurred spectacle of Madison Avenue traffic assailed them as they emerged from the building. They melded into the passing throng of pedestrians and rounded the corner into 47th Street. There's the checker, said Lesko. Looks like it's empty, said Angie. We may have to play this by ear, so watch yourself. There could be a stick out around. They walked up to the black sedan. No one was in it, so Lesko put on an act of appearing surprised, irritated, uncertain. He opened the back door and gestured the dark Angel inside with a jerk of his hand. Get in there and sit down, he said out loud. Angie did so. The floor carpeting was dirty and littered with a discarded gum wrapper, an empty matchbook, and several burnt-out match stubs. There was also a sheet of yellow paper sticking out from under the seat. Angie picked it up idly, as if killing time. It was a service work order for it from a repair garage in Brooklyn, dated about 3 months earlier, for a tune-up and a front-end alignment on the checkered sedan. The owner's name was written as R. Reagan, as the same address in Charlton Street. Ronald Reagan. Apartment 22, NYC. There was also a phone number. Angie memorized it and let the sheet flutter from her hand. Anyone coming? She asked Lesko. No sign. What do you make of it? They could be nervous because you're not carrying that potted plant. I don't even see anyone watching, Lesko retorted. It could be that they've flown the coupe, as I expected. He grunted dubiously. Then why not take the car? That is indeed a good question, said Angel Harp. Let's give them another 5 minutes. The 5 minutes went by, no one showed. Okay, screw it, said Angie and climbed out of the car. But my offer still stands. One glorious free fuck with all the trimmings in return for information rendered. Lesko showed his teeth in a grin. I'm going to take you up on that, Mama. More power to you, Sonny. Call me when you're ready to deal. She opened the front door of the checker and tried the glove compartment. It was empty except for 2 badly carboned spark plugs and a tin of car fuses. When she straightened them and closed the door, Lesko was still standing there, looking sheepish again. Well, what's the matter? Said Angie. You admiring my ass, or you got a problem? I got a problem. You wish to lay it on me? Yeah, no money. How do I get home? Good Christ, said Angie. Now that's what I call chutzpah. First you stick me up, and now you put the touch on me for car fare. She peeled a $5 bill out of the wallet from her shoulder bag. Unfortunately, this is the smallest I have. If you're going to drink it all up, kindly do so down on 24th Street. Thanks, Angel. Lesko's grin returned. You, wouldn't care to have one with me? Not today, honey. I've got loads to do, said Angie. But as the Limeys say, keep your pecker up. She jotted down the license number of the checker sedan, then found a sidewalk booth and called one of her contacts at police headquarters. Oh my God. Black Pussycat here, she told him. How are you doing, mule meat? Flattery will get you everywhere, kid, but try offering me a free feel. Sorry, I never played doctor with cops. It could get me unfrocked. There was a rasping chuckle from the fat detective sergeant at the other end of the line. You better believe it, Mama. Why does everyone call her Mama? Unfrocked, defrocked, and frocked. What can I do for you for? I'm making a car license. And you gave him the number and got a fast computer readout. That's a license off a 73 Chrysler that got stolen over a year ago. The car was recovered, but the plates never turned up. You got him? Nope, but I can tell you where to find him. On a black checker sedan. She gave him the location and hung up thoughtfully. The whole thing smelled, but there was one sure way to find out in a hurry. Angie fed Ma Bell another dime and dialed the phone number she had memorized from the service order. There were 2 or 3 rings, then an abrupt cutoff followed by a sing-song recorded voice. I'm sorry, the number you are trying to reach is not in service at this time. If you need assistance, please hang up and dial the operator. Shit, said Angie and hung up again, frowning. Well, and there was still one way to find out in a hurry. She flagged a cab and rode downtown. Charlton Street was a quietish backwater in the South Village, running a few blocks west from the border of Little Italy to the warehouses of the dockside area. It contained some fine old townhouses which still looked well kept up. There were also some seedy-looking apartments and other multiple-dwelling units. The address Angie was looking for turned out to be that of a seedy apartment home. Its outer door was locked. She fished a plastic-handed nail file and a gold cylindered lipstick out of her handbag. Both contained hidden picklock devices, which she proceeded to apply in businesslike fashion to the job at hand. There was nobody in sight watching her, and besides, in New York, who the fuck cared? Yes. That is kind of our motto, actually. Us in New York, which is, who the fuck cares? Which I think is pretty accurate. The door came open, revealing a mailbox vestibule fronting a dingy corridor with a flight of stairs on one side and an elevator on the other. Angie walked up the stairs to the second floor and found apartment 22. She knocked several times, got no answer. She took out one of the 2 keys and inserted it into the lock. It turned readily. She pushed open the door, walked in, and closed it behind her. Jesus H. Christ. Her skin crawled, and in the stillness Angie could hear her own blood pumping. Some nuts work? The apartment was obviously vacant, for the room bare-walled and empty, except for a figure standing in the very center of the floor, a nude female store window dummy, its head cloven by a hatchet. Adding to the grotesque effect was a necklace, hanging between the dummy's sterile tits. Yeah, notice the language gets a little saltier when you actually start reading the book. And a wood carved in big red letters across its belly, help. To play safe, Angie yanked out her pearl-handled baby Browning and made a quick circuit of the other rooms in the apartment, all empty. Returning to the living room, she switched on her handbag flashlight for a closer scrutiny of the stage props. The hatchet bore the official Boy Scouts of America insignia with the motto, "Be prepared." Wise words indeed, Angie reflected. A thought for this day. The necklace was a gold chain with a heavyish pendant in the shape of a five-sided disc, the magic pentacle figure. Uh-oh, are we going to get Satanists in this? The front of the pendant bore the zodiacal sign of Aquarius and the enameled figure of a water carrier, the whole design picked out and highlighted with tiny but glittering white, red, blue, and green stones. Son of a bitch, she thought. Those look like the real McCoy. Angie turned the disc over. On the other side was engraved the name, that name I can't pronounce, Bryony. Below this, near the edge of the disc, was the incise likeness of a quill pen with the designation 24K. Well. It was the real article, all right. 24-karat gold. And those tiny sparklers had to be diamonds, rubies, sapphires, and emeralds. Nothing cheaper would go with the quill pen. That quill was the hallmark of Leclerc's, an establishment less well-known than Tiffany's or Van Cleef and Arpels, but possibly more exclusive, and at the moment more in than either. It was a shop where you could write a check for your purchase to the tune of 100 big ones, or even $250,000 without the personage batting an eyelash, or for that matter, without leaving any great gaping hole in their showcase. The Dark Angel had good reason to know all this, having recently recovered for Leclerc's a necklace of huge, matched star sapphires valued at a cool $1,500,000. Offhand, she was inclined to guess that the pendant might be worth anywhere from 25 to 50 G's. That actually doesn't seem like that much. Angie snapped the gold chain from the dummy's neck and dropped the pendant into her shoulder bag. It was time to haul ass. She had been here long enough. She turned to go and stopped short. Something was written in chalk on the inside of the apartment door. Goldfish B 130. She hadn't noticed it earlier simply because she had been all eyes for the tomahawked dummy. What the hell did it mean? It took no brains that 1:30 was a time, for a date or a meeting perhaps, or some such. But what about Goldfish B? A place? Le Poisson d'Or, obviously, popularly known as the Goldfish Bowl, a favorite haunt of the 7th Avenue rag traders and jet-set types who read women's wear daily as their Bible. Just the spot for a chick who bought her junk jewelry at Leclerc's. So fine, goldfish bowl at 1:30. But what about the date? For all she knew, those motherfucking chalk marks could have been up there since April Fool's Day. Still, why take a defeatist view? The message might equally well have been chalked up last night or this morning. Angie glanced at her pastel-hued Trifari bracelet watch. One of a set she bought, color key to her standard wardrobe. 1:13. Hell, she could just make it. It's getting exciting. Outside the apartment house, she looked around for a cab, finally caught one on Varick Street, and started back uptown through the thickening noontime traffic. It was nearly 1:45 when she actually walked into Le Poisson d'Or. I'm assuming I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but, whatever. The joint was crowded with its usual glittering gallery of snobs, but the fussy Breton maitre d' was an abject slave of Angie's. This way, ma chérie, he cooed, bobbing and bowing, barely able to keep his hot little hands off her. Oh my god. Heads turned, female as well as male, as he led her down the aisle forward toward a cozily strategic little table that might almost been reserved especially for her. Angela, dear child, brayed a voice on her right. She turned and saw Von York gesticulating at her, it was the only word, from one of the upholstered wall booths. Do sit down and join me, darling, he begged prettily, patting the curved seat beside him. This dreadful feeling I'd been stood up. Angie turned back to the maitre d'. This will do nicely, Jean. I'll sit with Mr. York. The pudgy Breton shrugged expressively and bowed. As you wish, ma demoiselle. He said stiffly, breaking the word up into two parts to register his faintly jealous disapproval. Like, as in he was going to, sit with her or something? Gaunt and hook-nosed, and with a graying Caesar cut, Von York had risen, or possibly sunk, from police reporter to gossip columnist to freelance feature writer. His specialty was the fashionably rich, and his files and dossiers were said to be the most extensive outside the KGB's, the Gellin bureaus, and the late J. Edgar Hoover's. And Negro ladies in white muslin gowns, he quoted, pressing Angie's hand to her lips. My favorite line from Wordsworth, dear. Horseshit. You've been reading Huxley again. After many a summer, said the Dark Angel, insinuating herself into the booth beside him. Besides which, my shift is beige lawn, not white muslin. Dear God, that's what one gets for coming on literary with a Radcliffe bitch. And you can never quite decide whether York was a genuine queen or merely cultivated... Oh, Jesus. Okay. So here's where the 70s... here's where the 70s vocabulary really comes into play. Again, I am merely reading this book from 1975. And you can never quite decide whether York was a genuine queen or merely cultivated faggishness for elegant effect. All she knew was for sure that, under his foppish exterior, Von York was hard as nails. You were expecting a lunch date? Angie inquired. Hardly what one would call a lunch date, dear. Just some anonymous stoolie who promised me no end a scoop. But obviously, with a figurative peek at his watch, he or she is not going to show. Don't you really know which? Not really. The promise came in a written note. And, my dear, the way they teach handwriting in the schools these days, one hardly knows whether the hen scratches are in the Hottentot or hairy Ainu, much less the correspondent sex. Yes, gender does get a bit confusing at times, Angie observed innocently. Certainly not in your case, darling, with those magnificent boobs, said York. Actually, it's quite naughty of you to lay a crack like that on me. I should slap your wrist, but I do forgive you. Oh my God. Again, book from 75. But I do forgive you. Jigaboos being my favorite color this week. Tell me, what's doing with gangbusters? Who the fuck's busting any gangs? Said Angie. It was a perfect cue to return the serve with a question of her own. But some cunning instinct counseled Angie to play it cool and hold off till later, when they were masticulating their courgettes d'agneau. Again, whatever. By the way, she slipped in casually, what's Bryony up to these days? Bryony Cargill? The sudden tension in his voice made Angie glance jerk upward to see Von York staring at her transfixed. But naturally, said Angie, how many other Bryronies can you name among the beautiful people? Bryony Cargill, of course, the obvious answer. You crafty little cunt, York said slowly, in an impressed voice. Now how the hell did you find out about Bryony Cargill? Okay. Like I said, I apologize for the 45-year-old language, but unfortunately, we're reading from a dumpy blaxploitation pulp novel from 1975, so what can you do? Chapter 3. Find out what? Said the Dark Angel. You mean you don't know? Said Von York. I honestly don't know. Honestly? Honestly. Then what made you ask about Bryony Cargill? Oh, just something I read about her recently. Angie decided it was time to turn the attack back on York. Look, if you know something I don't know, how about cluing me in? The reporter shook his head coyly. Sorry, dear, my lips are sealed. He fed himself in meditative silence for a while, then said, But I'll make you a deal, Angel. Like, for instance? You may or may not know it, honey child, but a spirit voice tells me you're about to find yourself quiff deep in a very sensational crime case. No, please don't interrupt. York held up his hand as Angie tried to break in. If you insist you know nothing, so be it. Heaven forfend. I should doubt the word of a chaste maiden like yourself. But if and when you do find yourself in any such case in the near future, then I might just be able to help you. Help me? Oh, Jesus. Help me? Angie frowned, wishing she could see inside the bastard's head. How? With information, dear. You know my talents. A great deal of possibly very useful information. For a price, I presume? God damn it, said York. Must you put these things in such mercenary terms? You know my life is dedicated to one purpose and one purpose only, informing the public. Cut the cow crap, Vonnie boy, and let's get to the point, York said. A fair deal. One hand washes the other. I'll fill you in on everything I know. In return, you grant me exclusive interviews and keep me informed of all developments. The Dark Angel eyed him reflectively. I'll think it over. The disturbing personality occurred to her that she might have not much have time left to think. Outside Le Pisson d'Or, soon afterwards, she got away from him by pleading the need for her daily walk alone for purposes of transcendental meditation. Just be sure and meditate on my offer, dear, said Von York. Angie had a little meditating to do on more urgent subjects, and something told her she better do it damn fast. She could, of course, simply go to the clerks and ask them to identify the pendant, but that was too dangerously straightforward. If the pendant did belong to Bryony Cargill, and if York was right about something big and nasty brewing around the Cargill chick, then the Dark Angel might find herself in a very hot spot. Leclercs would sure as hell not treat her query as a sacred confidence in the face of a police investigation. Alternately, she could ask Mule Meat to check motor vehicles for the birth date on the driver's license of one Bryony Cargill. No doubt she could slip it past him easily enough. But the old fat-ass Sarge would inexorably recall her interest if the same name cropped up in the headlines a day or two later. There had to be some cute way to find out without putting her neck in a noose, yeah. But at the moment, Angie couldn't think of any. It looked like she'd have to do it the hard way. First take Bryony's old name, Royce H. Cargill. How much did she know about him? Well, he inherited a newspaper publishing empire from his old man, James Royce Cargill, a.k.a. the Thunderer, as they called him, or some such shit. After learning his trade up in various outposts, Royce had come to New York City around 1960, or thereabouts, as editor-publisher of the family's biggest paper. But the Cargill empire was already crumbling under the battering impact of TV, tougher competition, and increased production costs. First, they lost their paper in Cleveland, then in Frisco and Detroit, and finally the crown jewel of their press lineup was folded in New York along with the Herald Trib and the Journal American, sometimes during the strikes and labor troubles of the late 1960s and early 1970s. The family still owned newspapers in secondary cities, as well as various magazines, some which properties weren't doing any well to either, it was said. But at least Royce Cargill had gotten in one brilliant lick. After their New York Daily expired, he had plunged one of those weekly scandal sheets sold at supermarkets and newsstands, the National Commentator or Fornicator or whatever, the kind that featured penetrating insights on the love life of Jackie and REO. Reportedly, the rag had scored a solid success. By this time, Angie Stroll had taken her to West 53rd, where she stopped into the reference room of the Donald Branch Library for a quick check on Royce Cargill's entry in Who's Who. It turned out he had been an editor-publisher of the family San Francisco paper from 1952 to 1959, which meant that Bryony Cargill, in all likelihood, had been born in California. Angie taxied down to her office on 42nd Street in sight of Grand Central Station. Her door bore simply the legend, A. Harp, Private Investigator. Inside, all was quiet, as per usual. Not even any junk mail, which was hardly surprising, since A. Harp was unlisted in the telephone directory and generally unkenned by the public, with no evident connection to that sexy soul sister whom the police and the underworld called the Dark Angel. Angie plopped her delectable haunches, down on her desk chair and let her hand hover over the phone, which she mentally ran through her list of West Coast correspondence. Let's see. Should she use her boy in Watts with the balloon-sized afro? Or her Chinatown eye in Frisco, whose name even Angie could hardly believe? W. Goodwin Fook? What? Even as a 70s pun, that makes no sense. Anyways, obviously the latter was indicated. She direct dialed his number with the 415 area code and heard his pleasantly modulated treble voice respond. May I have one good Fook? Angie inquired delicately. Yeah, that's cute. You can have 2 or 3 good ones, honey, if we can figure out a way to do it over the phone. Okay, wow, these upcoming words I am not saying. You can fill in the blanks if you want, because even I have my limits. Fook, the gook, or jeez, of course I fuck it up. Fook, the spook, speaking. You got him here. They both bursted into spasms of wild laughter. Okay, at least they're casually racist with each other as friends. I mean, Jesus. No shit, how's my favorite yellow dog? Ugh, said Angie when she recovered. Lusting for his favorite black pussy, said Goodwin. You got a job for me? Just a little bitty one, but I need it fast. Can you check vital statistics on some goddamn department and get me the exact birth date of Bryony Cargill, daughter of newspaper publisher Royce Cargill? Okay, am I crazy, or do they reference Bryony Cargill as a he in the last page? I wouldn't put it past this book, actually, to screw that up. I'm assuming she was born out there sometime in the 1950s. And by the way, keep the query strictly anonymous. No sweat. You calling from your office? Yeah. Okay, I can probably find out over the phone. Sit tight, baby. The Chinese detective called back in 20 minutes. February 7th, 1955. Thanks, fucko, said Angie. Send me a bill or I'll work it off next time we see each other. I'll probably work myself off thinking about it, Goodwin Fook chuckled. In the meantime, ciao ciao, kid. Shai Tian, honey. February 7th. In astrology, that put her under the sign of Aquarius, which more or less made it official. Bearing some remarkable coincidence, the Bryony in question had to be Bryony Cargill. Angie fished out the gold pendant and looked at it thoughtfully. From here on, the going could get very sticky. Angie got up from her pink leather chair, went over to the liquor cabinet, and poured herself a stiff belt of Beefeater gin. It left an encouraging warmth in her tummy. And at this point, she needed all the encouragement she could get. Well, no use stalling around, she told herself. If you're going to do it, do it. Back at her carved teakwood desk, she dialed 914 information and got the number of Royce Cargill's estate in Westchester. She called the number. A maid's voice answered. This is the Cargill residence. Is Bryony Cargill there? Said the Dark Angel. Oh, one moment, please. There was a pause before another woman's voice came on. May I help you? I'd like to speak to Bryony, please, said Angie. I'm sorry, she's not at home right now. May I ask who's calling? Bryony doesn't know me, Angie said, but I found something that I think may belong to her. Can you tell me when she'll be in? Well, I don't know exactly, but I could find out and ring you back. I'm sorry, I'm calling from a booth and there are other people waiting in to use the phone, so you might not be able to get me, Angie lied. Suppose I tried calling you back in, say, 10-15 minutes? That would be fine, thank you. Angie hung up slowly. Something was wrong as hell. Her instincts had the red flag up, but she cooled it for a quarter of an hour and phoned back. The same woman's voice answered. Angie said. This is the person who called before, asking for Bryony. Were you able to reach her or find out when she'll be there? Oh, yes. Any time from 5 o'clock on would be fine. There was an audible tension in the woman's voice. All right, thank you, said Angie and started to put down the handset. You mentioned finding something at Bryony's, the woman exclaimed hastily. May I ask what it is? An item of jewelry. I won't try to describe it over the phone. Will you, be coming here to the house, or just phoning back? I'm not sure, said Angie and hung up. Her instincts were clamoring again. Damn it, why go looking for trouble? Why not just stick the fucking pendant in an envelope and mail it anonymously, along with the address in Charlton Street? The only flaw in that, Angie reflected, was that she was already involved. Had ever been since Lesko stuck that gun in her back on the elevator this morning. Not to mention Von York's disquieting prediction that she'd soon find herself quiff deep in a sensational crime case. Well, whatever was cooking, there was one sure way to find out. The Dark Angel locked her office and, outside the building again, caught a cab north to the exclusive Turtle Bay Towers high-rise overlooking the East River and United Nations. In her own pad, up on the 70th floor, Angie peeled off her threads, calmed her illusionary self with a few yoga postures, and stepped into her Byzantine sunken tub for a long, luxurious soak. Wow, private detective work really pays the bills. Afterwards, she put a tape of Der Rosenkavalier on her quadraphonic hi-fi and flaked out nude on her downy couch for a relaxing hour's nap. Angie awoke promptly on schedule, whipped herself up a egg vegetable wheat germ cocktail on the blender, and sipped it as she dressed, choosing a dark green short-sleeved knit skirt. A playfully fake tweed miniskirt woven of raw silk in minged green and burnt umber and knee-high black boots. It was nearing 7 when her Jaguar XKE purred inside of the vast, walled, and wooded Cargill estate in Westchester. As she drove up to the gates, a sign bearing the word "Stop" in red reflector jewels suddenly flapped upright from the driveway directly in front of her. Angie braked. A voice spoke from the squawk box on a pedestal at her left. Your name, please? Angie aimed her voice towards the speaker grill, ignoring the question. I phoned this afternoon about finding something which I believe belonged to Bryony Cargill. I was told she'd be home any time after 5. Get out of your car, leave it parked where it is, and come into the grounds on foot, please. You'll be driven up to the house. Angie obeyed, slipping her bag over her shoulder. The high-barred gates opened automatically, and she walked through. A husky-looking dude in blue coveralls, evidently a watchman or guard, came out of the gatehouse on her left. He was carrying a clipboard and had a revolver holstered on his hip. She turned to meet him, and he handed her the board and a pencil. Sign in, please. Angie was about her usual cover name, Anne Harper, when a heavy voice somewhere behind her rasped, Don't move, Miss Harper. Or Miss Harp. And that means freeze, totally. The sons of bitches. They'd waited off till both her hands were occupied, and even then they'd been careful to jump her from behind. Step away from her, Dotery. Well away. The watchman in blue, grinning at Angie's plight, backed off several yards. Now drop that clipboard and pencil, Miss Harp. She did so. And let that bag slide off your shoulder to the ground. Angie obeyed. Now take off your shirt. Go to hell. Dotery, do you solve that can of mace in the gatehouse? I sure do, sir. Another big toothy grin. Go get it and give her a good squirt if she doesn't do as I say in the next few seconds. Angie chose discretion as the better part of valor and took off her shirt. Oh, God. Good, said the voice behind her. While you're at it, keep going and take off your brassiere as well. You see, Miss Harp, we've heard all about the Dark Angel's reputation for speed and violence, and her penchant for concealed trick weaponry, so we're taking absolutely no chances. And giving herself a cheap thrill in the process, said Angie coldly as she unhooked her bra. Oh, God. Her breasts were big and brown and rose nipples. The watchman was watching them vividly. Now the skirt, and your half-slip if you're wearing any. Angie stripped to her yellow bikini and boots. Turn around, Miss Harp. Angie turned around and got her first look at the speaker, standing several yards away. He was a big man, maybe 50, all tall and athletically built, with broad shoulders, flat stomach, a grayish-blonde brush cut, and a weather-beaten face. He was holding a 9mm Luger Parabellum, which could have been put in a hole in Angie big enough to ram his fist through. The gun, she noticed, was damned oddly with his crisp pin dot summer executive suit and bow tie. Yet somehow he gave the impression of holding the piece with practiced ease. Whoever he might be, he was as sure Whoever he might be, he was sure as hell wasn't Bryony's daddy, Royce Cargill. And that bastard was eyeballing her just as greedily as the watchman, getting his jollies the same way. Sure you don't want me to take my pants off? Angie inquired sarcastically. I might have a deadly weapon concealed inside. The gentleman gun-toter laughed with equal sarcasm. I'm sure you do, my dear, between your legs, so keep your panties on for the moment. Dotary, take a look in her bag. Angie could hear the watchman close in behind her, pick up the bag, and begin groping through its contents. She's got a gun, sir. Take it. Oh, here's a necklace that belongs to Miss Bryony. I've seen her wearing it. Good, take that too. Anything else of interest? I guess that's about it all, sir. Very well. Turn around again, Miss Harp, and now you may pick up your clothes and start dressing. Screw you, said Angie over the shoulder as she turned. If this is the way the Cargills greet their guests, this is the way I'll meet them. Then they'll be able to testify personally when I bring assault charges. The man with the Luger chuckled dryly behind her. Suit yourself, my dear. If in that case, go ahead and finish signing in. It'll be interesting to see how the Dark Angel identifies herself on paper, since you carefully avoided doing so over the phone, I'm told. As Angie bent to retrieve the clipboard and pencil, she could sense the bow-tied gunman approaching her from her rear. Okay, you bastard, she was thinking. Next, it's my turn. She straightened up and slowly began to write her name. The watchman was standing in front of her, obviously, from the lecherous leer on his face, enjoying his proximity to her bare tits. All she needed now was some signal that the Luger man was in reach behind her. It came with a playful slap on her rump. I don't know how the Cargills will enjoy seeing you in boots and panties, my dear, his heavy voice remarked, but I can assure you He got no farther because the Dark Angel suddenly exploded into action. She jabbed the blunt end of the pencil hard into the watchman's solar plexus, Jesus, leaving him calling the air for breath, helpless and speechless. In the same instant, she whirled backwards, swinging the clipboard like a frisbee. Its edge cracked against the gunman's skull, knocking him witless. Angie flung herself sideways to the ground, all in the same continuous whirling motion, to avoid his line of fire in case he triggered the Luger. But he's already collapsing limply, so she speeded his fall with a kick in the ankle, then rolled to face her other opponent. The watchman, still pop-eyed and strangling for air, was grabbing clumsily at the gun in his holster. Angie booted him in the kneecap as he went down abruptly, as if one leg had been shot from under him. The Dark Angel scrambled to her feet and found the Luger. She disarmed the watchman and recovered her baby Browning automatic with the gold pendant which he had taken from her shoulder bag. Up on your feet, stupid, she ordered. I'm not sure my leg will support me. Try it, Angie advised coldly, unless you'd rather have me knock you out as cold as he is. The watchman managed to stand up. Flip that stop sign down out of my way. She accompanied him inside the gatehouse and watched while he pressed a switch that retracted the sign. Now push my car inside the gates. While he did so, Angie dropped the Luger and pendant inside her capacious bag and hoisted it to her shoulder again. Take your asshole buddy there and drape him over the hood of my Jag. The watchman obeyed in numb disbelief. Just incidentally, who the hell is he? Mr. Upshur, Warner Upshur. He's Mr. Cargill's business partner. Ah, yes, the name suddenly clicked as Angie recalled one of Royce Cargill's business affiliations listed in Who's Who. Senior partner, Cargill Upshur Co., publisher of National Indicator. The watchman stared as Angie tossed her clothes and her shoulder bag inside the Jaguar and slid behind the wheel and kept him roughly covered with her own gun. Now get your ass back in the gatehouse and call the Cargills, she told him. Tell them the Dark Angel's driving up their front door with the craziest deer you ever saw. So it's been an hour. And I realize that most streams on YouTube go on for hours, but I think my voice is still not really used to reading for this nonstop long. So I think I'm just going to do one more chapter, this chapter 4, and then probably call it a night. But like I said before, I'll be back on Thursday. And I'm assuming too, the more I do these streams, the better trained my voice will get to be able to handle this nonsense. Chapter 4. The white gravel drive curved gracefully towards a vast parkland and a garden of topiary into a imposingly fake English manor house. Its windows glowed with light against the gathering dusk. Getting out of her Jaguar, Angie ascended 3 broad marble steps, crossed a flagged front terrace, and rang the doorbell. The door opened, and almost instantly an impossibly fake English butler appeared, tall and moon-faced in his tailored coat and striped trousers. He tried not to do a wild double take at the sight of the semi-nude visitor and failed. Yes? Mr. Royce Cargill, please. Wait, she never put back her outfit back on? What? Mr. Royce Cargill, please. The butler struggled to keep his eyes off her boobs and panties. Whom shall I say is calling? It's not the Avon lady, said Angie curtly. Just tell him Miss America... Oh my God. It's not the Avon lady, said Angie curtly. Just tell him Miss American Black Ass is here. God damn it. As he hesitated, floundering, not quite certain whether to ask her to step inside or shut the door in her face, the Dark Angel solved the problem for him. Oh shit, don't bother, she said. I'll tell him myself. In the meantime, with a jerk on of her thumb, there's a carcass out there you might want to see to. Or you may not. I don't really give a damn, except I want it cleaned off my car before I leave here. You dig? Yes, ma'am, gulped the butler, staring hysterically at the body draped over the hood of her Jag. Angie moved past him into a tiled foyer and on through a lofty archway on the right to a tapestried drawing room where 4 people were waiting, 3 men and a woman. Judging by their reactions, the sight of a nearly stark Negro nymph in black boots and yellow bikini underpants was clearly not an everyday event. What the devil is the meaning of this? Blustered a man with the profile of an old Roman senator and long, graying sideburns, who Angie recognized as Royce Cargill. If you're referring to my costume, she said coldly, ask your pal, Warner Upshur. He had me strip it out at the front gate. Whatever happens, you apparently find the lack of clothes no hardship. I must ask that you dress decently before presenting yourself in my home. Don't give me that sanctimonious jive, Angie retorted. Save that for the jerks who read your national indicator, and you can do your explaining to a judge as to why your female guests are forced to disrobe at gunpoint. Royce, if you'll permit me, a balding, pale-faced henchman with a black groucho mustache spoke up hastily. He turned to Angie. Miss Harp, I believe that's your name. Miss Angela Harp. We trust you'll forgive any rudeness or discourtesy as to which you were subjected to on arrival. I can assure you such was not Mr. Cargill's intent. His partner, Mr. Upshur, volunteered to help out on this evening and was actively acting entirely on his own, in excess of zeal, no doubt, to ensure that you were not coming here armed. The circumstances are somewhat unusual, and we're all acting under something of a strain, and I do believe it will be to everyone's advantage if we can avoid personalities and come directly to business. By the way, I'm J. Everett, Mr. Cargill's legal counsel. Cargill humrumphed. Speaking of Warner Upshur, where is he? Do we gather him from the gateman's phone call that something happened to him? Yeah, he got carried away with his gunslinger act, said Angie, so I had to beat him to make him cool it. He's out there on the hood of my car, unless your butler's lugged him off already. Cargill strode to the window, pulled aside the drapery, and peered out. Good heavens! Derek, will you go out and lend a hand? The third man in the room, a good-looking young blonde dude in white ducks and navy blue Lacoste knit shirt with a little alligator on the pocket, moved hastily to obey. Sure thing, sir. Cargill turned back to the Dark Angel. Now then, young woman, I understand you told my wife on the phone that you had a piece of jewelry belonging to my daughter, Bryony. Angie ignored him and turned to the woman. A green-eyed, Titian-haired, a green-eyed, Titian-haired houri who was probably, Angie judged, on the wrong side of 35, but looked as immortal as Marilyn Oberon. You're Mrs. Cargill? The second Mrs. Cargill, she might have said, but didn't. Yes, Miss Harp, and do please sit down. We don't mean to be rude, but as Mr. Everett has indicated, we're all under something of a strain this evening. Thanks. I prefer to remain standing, said Angie. When I called this afternoon, Mrs. Cargill, you led me to assume your stepdaughter would be here this evening. Where is she? The houri faltered. I believe what I actually said was just that any time after 5 would be fine, but she glanced helplessly at the 2 men. Perhaps I'd better let my husband or Mr. Everett explain. Yeah, perhaps you had, Angie said dryly, shifting her gaze. I promise you will explain fully in the moment, said J. Everard. But first, what about this item of jewelry? What about it? May we see it? Naturally, since I came here to show it. But I think the usual procedure is for someone to describe it first. If you need a clue, it's an astrological necklace. Briarneys is a gold pendant bearing a Aquarius design in enamel and jewels, said Mrs. Cargill. It comes from Leclerc's and has her name engraved on the back. Right on, Mrs. Cargill. Strictly speaking, I suppose the watchman could have phoned you all those details from the gatehouse, but I'm in no mood to quibble. Angie plucked the pendant from her bag and handed it over. It's all yours, madam, or your stepdaughter's, to be precise, and I may say it's been an unforgettable evening. Where did you find that necklace? The Roman senator's voice broke in sharply. You're entirely welcome, Mr. Cargill, and I wouldn't dream of accepting a reward. Angie opened her shoulder bag again, dredged out the envelope she had taken Lesko's coat pocket, and tossed it on the floor. I found it in an empty apartment at that address. You can ask your daughter or the building superintendent how it got there. She turned to go. Just a minute, Miss Harp, we're not done with you yet. The Dark Angel whirled coldly. Look, Cargill, you pompous prick, I've had about enough of your Spanish Inquisition tactics. I came here at considerable inconvenience to do your daughter a favor. I got held up and damn near raped at your front gate, and now I'm supposed to put up with your asinine cross-examination? Honky, I don't give a fiddler's fuck if you're done with me or not, but I can tell you one thing. My lawyers sure as hell aren't done with you. They're Lynchthorpe, Greenbaum, and Foley of 7 Wall Street, and you'll be hearing from them. Please, J. Everard said frantically. Miss Harp, once again I assure you, no insult or indignity is intended. Royce, I see no need for you to address this young lady on such a antagonistic note. No, Cargill snorted impatiently. Then maybe you'd like to explain this. He took out an envelope of his own, opened it, and extracted something small and black and paper thin. It was cut in the silhouette shape of a little harp-playing angel with halo and wings. What am I supposed to explain? Said Angie. You deny that this is yours? It's a symbol that's been associated with me. It was, in fact, a black seal of the kind that often seemed to turn up in the course of Angela Harp's criminal cases. They were usually found stuck on the foreheads of crooks and other baddies who had the misfortune of poor judgment to tangle with a dark angel. When she left them unconscious for the fuzz after recovering the loot from some heist which had just put her on the trail. Wait, so, like, is she Batman or something? What the hell? Who leaves a calling card? This little trademark or calling card of yours, if I may so put it, came into my office mail this morning, said Royce Cargill with heavy significance. Interesting, but not exactly earth-shaking, said Angie. I have no copyright on the design, and if you're asking me, I'm not the one who sent that to you. Or I was supposed to display some shattering reaction to your announcement? My daughter, Briarney, said Cargill, has been kidnapped. There was a sudden, all-engulfing silence, during which a part of Angie's mind noted that the young man called Derek had rejoined them, together with a chastened-looking Werner Upshur. Briarney Cargill kidnapped? Son of a bitch, that really flung the shit in the fan. Not that it came as all that much of a surprise. Subconsciously, Angie realized, she'd been more or less expecting this all along. No lesser bombshell would have fitted all the facts quite so well, from Von York's coy intimidations or disaster to Upshur's abortive ambush at the front gate. She looked at Royce Cargill and said bluntly, Are you accusing me of kidnapping your daughter? Not accusing you, Miss Harp, his voice grated, or at any rate, not yet. Merely putting you on notice that you're qualified as the number one suspect, and I'm strongly advising you to save your own neck while you still have the chance. Don't threaten me, Cargill, the Dark Angel retorted calmly and looked at his red-haired wife. Is that invitation to sit down still open, Mrs. Cargill? Of course. Angie recalled inadvertently that... Angie recalled irreverently in passing that Who's Who had given the present Mrs. C's full name as Konya Neely Cargill. I mean, what does that have to do with anything? I don't know. Thank you, she said out loud, and eased herself greatly into a Hepplewhite chair nearby. I could also do with a drink, if you care to stretch your hospitality even further. Do forgive us, said Konya Cargill. What would you like? Gin and nothing, said Angie, on the rocks. Or you could just say, gin on the rocks, but this book has to be extra on everything. Other orders were taken, and Royce Cargill fumed in silence until the moon-faced butler brought the drinks on a tray. The delay, however, had given Angela Harp and ample time to run the simulation back and forth with her mental computer, while noting en passant that her semi-nudity was giving Upshur and the young man, wait, she's still naked? Oh my god. And possibly even Cargill himself, some highly seasoned food for thought. Again, why couldn't she have taken like a minute to put on at least a top or something? Jesus. Would you care to tell me the whole story? She said to Royce Cargill. Not particularly, but since you ask, Cargill replied grudgingly. My daughter and her fiancé, Derek Morgan, with a gesture toward the blonde dude, as you may or may not know, are students at Rockford University on Long Island. On Saturday, the day before yesterday, Bryony had an 11 a.m. class and told us she expected to spend the afternoon at a university library, doing research for a sociology paper. So we weren't particularly concerned when she didn't return in time for dinner. But then Derek came around a little after 8 o'clock to pick her up from an evening date. For an evening date. It turned out she'd arranged to ride home from the campus with him, but when he looked for her at the library, she had already left. Derek, of course, assumed she'd come on home earlier for some reason, without waiting for him. Yet here it was 8 and no sign of her, which naturally did make us a trifle worried. So we began to phone around to several of her college friends to find out if any of them had seen Bryony or knew where she might be. None of them could tell him anything. By 10 o'clock, we were about ready to call the police. Then the phone rang. A man's voice told me that he and certain associates, as he put it, were holding Bryony prisoner, and he warned me not to notify either the police or the FBI if we ever hoped to see her alive again. Did he offer any proof, such as letting you speak to her or hear her voice? Angelus asked. No, I started to suggest that, but he cut me short, told me to shut up and stand by for further message, which would outline the terms on which they might be willing to release her unharmed. Might be. Those were his words. Then he hung up. What sort of voice was it? Cargill hesitated, frowning. Youngish, I would say probably educated, rather than an ungrammatical street voice, although he really didn't say enough for her to tell for sure. White or black? Said the Dark Angel. White, I assumed. But again, that's only a guess. I realize it's hard to tell in certain cases, such as your own. Cargill's tone lent the latter remark a certain menacingly sarcastic emphasis. Has he phoned again since then? No. Sunday went by with no word whatever. I needn't tell you what state of mind that left us in. Then this morning, I decided to go into my office in New York in case the kidnappers might try to contact me there, and sure enough, I received an envelope in the morning mail which contained your black seal. Not my black seal, said Angie, gently swirling the dregs of her gin among the ice cubes. A black seal. A black seal portraying you, and the kind used by you, Cargill retorted. Naturally, being a newspaper publisher, I am well aware of the Dark Angel and her, shall we say, controversial reputation. So it is with keen interest that I learned of this afternoon's phone call to my wife by a young woman who wouldn't identify herself and who had claimed to have found an item of jewelry belonging to my daughter Bryony. I take it your wife immediately notified you of my call? Of course. And on your second call, when she specified after 5 o'clock that was to allow me ample time to get home from the city, so I could be sure of being on hand when you arrived. And your partner Upshur volunteered to come along and dispense his invaluable strong-arm expertise. My lawyer, J. Avart, had already explained that Mr. Upshur was only trying to be helpful. By stripping your female visitors? Upshur reddened at her mocking tone and started to sputter indignantly, but Angela Harp ignored him, her voice hardening. Look, Cargill, why not just lay it on the line? I've told you where I found your daughter's gold pendant. The address is there on the envelope on the floor. And I'm ready to provide any further details you care to know. Now what the hell do you want from me? Are you accusing me of something, or consulting me professionally, or what? If you can't make up your mind, don't waste my time. If I may just interrupt a moment, said the mustached lawyer. Royce, why don't we have at least listen to Miss Harp's story as to how she came into possession of Bryony's necklace? It may clear up a great deal of misunderstanding. Cargill grunted noncommittally. By all means, I'm not stopping her. Evart turned to the Dark Angel. Then if you'd care to inform us, Miss Harp? Angie related the facts tersely, starting with the elevator stick-up. Her voice sounded even phonier and more bizarre in the telling than the events that had seemed when they happened. A moment of sticky silence followed. What you tell us may or may not be true, Miss Harp, Royce Cargill opines in the skeptically chilly tone. We've got no way of judging, so it needn't really concern us. You didn't hear me before, Cargill, said the Dark Angel in equally glacial tones. I asked, what the hell do you want from me? If you can't make up your mind, I'll be on my way. I want my daughter, Miss Harp, and I intend to get her back safely. Now, it may be that black seal I received in the mail was a broad hint from Bryony's kidnappers that they wish you to act as go-between on the payment of the ransom. For the moment, I'm willing to act on that assumption. Yeah, well, don't be too sure I am, Angie flared tartly. There's another equally plausible explanation, Cargill went on, as if she hadn't spoken, namely that the black seal was an unrolled tip of yours that you yourself are Bryony's kidnapper. If that's the case, your possession of her gold pendant could be construed as damning evidence of your guilt. Then you better call the cops and turn me in, said Angie. That is, if you're prepared to face a charge of false arrest. In due time, I may just do that and hand you over to the police or FBI, said Cargill. Should that prove to be the only way to get results. One way or another, I expect you to produce my daughter, unharmed. With that object in mind, I'm willing to entrust you with whatever ransom money is demanded, and no questions asked. But I'm telling you now, Miss Harp, that I expect you to deliver the goods, or by God I intend to see you behind bars, possibly on death row. For kidnapping? In case you haven't heard, kidnapping is a federal offense, punishable by the death penalty. Damn. The Dark Angel stood up. Once again, Cargill, don't threaten me. It happens a few of my ancestors were sold into slavery, which permanently turns me off the idea of merchandising human beings for money. I haven't done it yet, and I don't intend to start. So count me out of handling your daughter's ransom. Then you refuse to help me recover Bryony? Cargill's voice was hoarse with rage and indignation. I'm a licensed private detective, said Angela Harp. Kidnap cases are no specialty of mine, but since some son of a bitch has already involved me on this one, you might say I have a personal stake in solving it, so I'm prepared to undertake an investigation into your daughter's disappearance, if that's what you're asking. My fees, I might add, come high. J. Evart spoke up hastily. Look, Royce, as far as the actual payment of the ransom goes, the physical handling over the money, I'd be perfectly willing to attend to that end of it. But I do strongly urge that you retain Miss Harp's services, regardless of how you may see her role in this case. Cargill withdrew into silence. Cargill withdrew into himself for several moments of heavy breathing silence. Very well, I'll go give her 5 days to investigate and find Bryony before I go to the FBI. Big-hearted you, murmured Angie. During that time, I shall do everything possible to assist you, Miss Harp, and use my influence to save you from pressure or interference by the police, and in general to guarantee you a free hand. Fair enough, Cargill. On one condition. I knew there was a catch. Namely, that my daughter's fiancé, Derek Morgan, keep a constant watch on you to make sure you don't attempt to leave the New York area or otherwise put yourself beyond the reach of the law. What the hell is constant watch supposed to mean? Said the Dark Angel. A stakeout in front of my apartment? Not in front of your apartment, Miss Harp. I'm sure you're too wildly inexperienced at evading surveillance for that sort of arrangement to mean anything. No, I'm talking about under the same roof. There was a faint and audible gasp from somewhere in the room. When you're not actually out pursuing your investigation. And if you object to Derek's presence at your own place, then feel free to make use of the apartment on Fifth Avenue, which Cargill Publishing Company maintains for its company guests. Cargill turned to the young blonde dude, who stood gasping in shock, first at Cargill, then at Angie, as if the proposal opened up a disturbing array of vistas which had better not be surveyed. Derek, under the terms I'm outlining, I want to make it clear that, should Miss Harp intend to duck out or give you the slip at any time, you are to alert the police immediately. Is that understood? Derek Morgan moistened his lips nervously. I guess so. Yes, sir, if she agrees. Cargill's gaze swung back to the Dark Angel. Miss Harp? Her lips curled. The implication of Cargill's terms was clearer to everyone in the room. It wasn't the sort of proposal he'd be making to a respectable white chick, requiring her to share the living quarters with a man she never even seen before tonight, but a Negro ex-call girl obviously had no virtue to lose. On the other hand, notwithstanding her own contacts in the Bureau, there was no doubt he could make things rough for her, once the FBI and the local fuzz got on in the act. And playing house with his daughter's blonde college boy sweetie might have its piquant aspects at that. Well, Miss Harp, he repeated impatiently. You're a son of a bitch, Cargill. But okay. Ooh. Okay. So Chapter 5. So that was the beginning of this nonsense. Dark Angel number 3, The Gilded Snatch Caper by James D. Lawrence. But I think I'm going to call it for a night because I can already feel my voice, my throat kind of starting to turn on itself. But yeah, that was interesting. I mean, it was certainly entertaining. Like the story's mildly interesting, although let's be real, since this is 75, I forget what year it was, but I'm just going to assume it's based off of what's her name? The heiress to the Hearst fortune. You might have heard the story. What was her name? It was she was the heir to the Hearst, like newspaper publishing fortune. She was kidnapped by these like extremists, radical leftists, or I don't even know who they were, but she was kidnapped. She was disappeared. They were trying to find her, and then I think it was a few months later, she shows up with with her kidnappers, fully armed, and robs a bank, which is interesting to say the least. So I'm just going to assume that Bryony Cargill will be showing up later. I'll put in my official predictions that Bryony Cargill will be showing up later. I don't know, doing the whole Stockholm syndrome thing with her kidnappers, and or is that she's actually the girl. What was her name? Flower, that the pervy elevator guy was recruited by. So those are my predictions, but yeah, who knows? But yeah, no, this is good. I mean, I'm kind of hoping for less racial slurs in the future, and less weird, like casual sexism. I still don't understand why she was just like standing there naked for the entire chapter, last chapter, but whatever. But yeah, no, but also I'll definitely continue reading this though. I'll keep doing this this Thursday, probably another 4 to 5 chapters. I think it's like probably a good amount. I gotta turn this autofocus off though. It's driving me nuts. But yeah, so that is tonight's stream. I hope you enjoyed. Anyone who showed up. And I just want to say though too, please feel free to share this. If you get any entertainment out of this, or if you think you know of anyone who would like be entertained by this, or would find it relaxing or distracting, or any of that stuff, feel free to share it with them, because that's kind of the whole point. Is that I kind of set up this whole channel and stream to to like kind of basically like if I could get one person to kind of like feel better after listening to it, then like to me like that's mission accomplished. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching this on YouTube, which it should be published after the stream, let me know of any certain books you want me to read. Like, I'd be definitely down to read more trashy Pulp Fiction novels, especially if they're really ludicrous, or anything else for that matter. I'm always down to for suggestions. I mean, because I've got stuff here, but I like the more ridiculous stuff, and I think other people do too. That being said, I hope you have a good night, and I'll talk to you later. See you then. Bye.